Good morning, everyone. Today, I kind of want to talk about gaming in general, or the perspective of gaming in our society, because I kind of saw that on TV. There's this, I don't know where exactly I saw it. There was this, I think it was a dating scenario on first dates, yeah, on Vox. I think that's also an international thing. It's where there were blind dates in this restaurant that is kind of hosted by this chef, and yeah, it's something that is on afternoon TV here in Germany. And whenever I have a break and my wife and I having lunch and I'm working from home, we put on TV and just let run whatever is going on. There was afternoon TV, and there was this episode of First Dates, and there was this you would think that the male was saying that, but it was actually the woman who said something on the long line, and she was a soldier actually, so she wasn't kind of like to which I would get in a second the perspective of a regular nerd, of someone who doesn't get his or her life together. So she was like, okay, when I'm kind of relaxing, I like to play games, video games. And he was like all taken aback, and he was like, oh, it's when someone's playing video games, I have the perception of someone who's not getting his or her life together. And I kind of understand the perspective. No, I don't understand this perspective, because I like gaming. I experience that somewhat perspective from, I would say, most of society. Even though gaming is now a little bit more mainstream, this perception of some people still is that when someone is playing video games, usually it is kind of attributed to the perception of that person doesn't have their life together. Oh, that person doesn't have hobbies and doesn't know what to do with his or her life, which I think is a very oversimplified general perspective. As you know, I don't like to think to overgeneralize things. I wouldn't say, for example, that someone who plays role-playing pen and paper games is a nerd, or for example, or is unfortunately I wear glasses, is wearing glasses, is not hygienic, and it's this perception. It's obviously there are some people that are like that, but it is pretty much wrong to say everyone who is doing this is that, right? Or it's the same thing with racism, saying like every person from that country is this. This overgeneralization, I hope that's the right word, of something and then attributing it to something else, and yeah, again, overgeneralizing this to that is really stupid. And it's something that you can see pretty much all over the world and all over society. And going back to the topic of gaming, where people say, and it basically also comes down to me being an 80s kid. In the 80s, there was always this kind of, first it was something like, oh, when you play Dungeons and Dragons, right, you must kind of worship Satan. Or, oh, you play Doom, you must be a serial killer. You probably shoot other people down because you play Doom, Duke Nukem, and stuff like that, right? Oh, Mortal Kombat, you play Mortal Kombat. Something must be wrong in your brain because you kind of enjoy that kind of violence. And I'm not a psychologist or a scientific person. I played those games. I would say I'm not a serial killer. I would say I'm not violent, although I do martial arts. But I'm a very peaceful person, actually. But yeah, I kind of can, I don't know what the right word is. Understand, relate is not the word, but I see where I see that people are thinking that, and it seems a little bit normalized. And again, this overgeneralization of this thought process, especially nowadays, is really stupid to me, because the same people who kind of judge you for playing video games are the same people who would spend hours doom scrolling on their phone, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. And then I don't understand the argument where people say like, oh, you're playing video games, you're wasting away time, you're doing nothing useful, whilst those people sit in front of their phones and are doom scrolling, right? It feels so backwards to me. And again, this kind of emphasizes this stupid perspective of people saying, oh, video games are wasted time. And my counter argument to that is, especially when it comes down to retro gaming, where also my wife is saying like, oh, you just exchanged one display for the other, because I told her that I kind of logged out of Instagram. I'm not scrolling on Instagram anymore, but I'm playing video games. And she said something along the lines where it is, oh, you just exchanged one screen for the other. But my argument for that is, I'm much more actively involved in whatever is going on this screen. I solve puzzles. I follow along a storyline. I'm much more easier. I have an easier time to concentrate on that game instead of doom scrolling. There are multiple times where I was on Instagram whilst watching TV, and I wasn't focusing on any of those two activities. Granted, I made this video couple of days ago where I had told you that I'm watching movies while playing games. So there's still something to be said that it's not perfect yet, but still I'm more actively engaged in the video game compared to doom scrolling on Instagram. So my argument is that being on a video game is much more active and much better. Then also there's this argument, oh, your hobbies are playing video games. So you probably heard that. And I'm pretty certain that if you ask those people what their hobbies are, some of them say something along the lines, oh, I like to go shopping. I like to kind of watch TV. And I'm sitting there, okay, I get the idea of watching a movie. I love watching movies, but when people are kind of simplifying, oh, I'm just watching TV, you know, that kind of saying, or I like to go shopping. And I'm sitting here, how's that better? How's that a better hobby? Consuming, wasting away money in a way, because most of the time those people, when they say they like shopping, they go shopping for clothing, right? How is that better? A better hobby than playing a video game? And that is really backwards to me. I don't really get that. And I would wish that there would be somewhat of a change of mindset. But don't get me wrong, there are negatives to it. If, like anything in life, if you overdo it, it can't be good. For example, I like to eat sweets. I like to eat kind of chocolate bars. If there's some crunch to it, like a Twix bar, I love that. Or here in Germany, there's something that is called Knoppers. It's kind of this waffle, chocolatey kind of thing. I love that. But if I would eat that all day long, multiple Twix, for example, and obviously it wouldn't be good for my health, right? But I think like one or two, that's totally fine. If you exercise, obviously. And for my lifestyle, that's okay. But again, if I overdo it, it's not good. The same thing holds true with anything else. If you go to Instagram, it's not that bad. But if you continuously scroll and then just scroll without even realizing what you just consumed, And if your screen time suddenly is like 4 hours per day on Instagram or whatever it might be, or if you game and you kind of totally forget your responsibilities, then that is terrible. Again, I utilize these for breaks, 10 to 20 minutes to reset my brain. I believe that is totally okay. But obviously, if I would game 2 hours or 1 hour between my work and kind of not doing my job correctly, that would be bad, obviously. But again, it comes down to balance. It comes down to knowing how much is okay and how much is not okay. But I think it's wrong. I'm not sure if that's the right adjective. It is wrong to say, oh, you're wasting away your life. It is a very oversimplified perspective on a hobby that can be beneficial, or at least is not worse than doomscrolling. Because again, some people consider that their hobby, being on social media, being on their phone. So I would argue it's not worse. I would argue it's better. But again, it's a much more nuanced perspective on that. And society looking at these types of hobbies like gaming or role-playing games, pen and paper, or I am a huge fan of Magic the Gathering. If people consider that nerdy stuff and attribute that to people, and I'm sorry if I offend, I'm not saying that, but that is something that is being said, right? They attribute pen and paper, role-playing, Magic the Gathering with people that are smelly, that are unhygienic, that don't have social skills. And there's some people that there might be some truth to that, but it's not everyone. So I feel like that is something that we need to change. Overgeneralization, oversimplification of that, and kind of judging other people whilst doing basically something that is worse. Again, going back to the example of people saying video games are terrible whilst doom scrolling on their phone, right? So yeah, I think that should be kind of changed in some of the people's minds. Again, it has been much better. Gaming is much more in the mainstream compared to the 80s or 90s. Yet still there are people that are looking at it kind of twisted or backwards, in my humble opinion. Anyways, what are your thoughts about that? Or have you experienced that kind of judgmental comments when you kind of played video games or anything else? Let me know in the comment section below, and maybe check out my video about where I installed newly on the RG40V. And you can see it up here, and YouTube thinks it liked the video down here. And don't forget to subscribe by clicking the button up here. That way we see each other tomorrow. Thank you very much.